Alrighty, welcome to your astrology reading. Let me just make sure everything looks good. Okay, my eyes look really red. I think I've been allergic to something. Cats. It's crazy to be allergic to cats but still live with them. Crazy, but I wouldn't change that for anything. But anyways, let's jump right in. So I have everything pulled up in this other page. Where are we here? Okay, Fofi. And I know that's a Greek name. I think I already asked you about that. But anyways, okay, so I know you have an understanding of astrology already, or you've expressed that. Seconds. So basically, as I said, this was like a special 50-minute reading. So it's just the recording. I sent you in the voice message before that if you feel like you want to have a follow-up session, that's like usually what most people say. I'd say 80% of my readings are the recordings plus follow-up. I'd be happy to do that. You can also just let me know. But anyways, so let's dive in. So what do I see when I look at your chart? What stands out to me from the first, right away is the fact that you have this amazing trine. It's actually a grand trine between Sun, Moon. You can say Sun, like Moon / Neptune / Saturn, that kind of stellium and Uranus. That whole Capricorn Moon stellium, which makes your emotions this channel, right? It's almost like you're able to like when you get into your unconscious, the moon is really that instinct, right? It's really that part of us. It truly is intuition. So when you have these all three of, like, besides Pluto, but like these three outer planets, they're so spiritual: Uranus, Neptune, Saturn. It means that you're able to channel all those energies. And the one that's closest to you is Saturn. And then after that it's Uranus, and then after that it's Neptune. So, being a Capricorn moon, this is going to give you a lot more depth and a lot more, even though Saturn is the closest one, which is, the planet that rules Capricorn, you're going to have a lot more internal dynamism. And you kind of have to look at each of the conjunctions independently to really decipher what they all do. But let's just say that they make you very dynamic. And they also make you a little bit more, way more complex than the typical Capricorn Moon, Taurus Sun. So with the Saturn conjunct Moon in Capricorn, I mean, it just kind of bolsters that Capricorn Moon already, right? Which is like Capricorn Moons, they want things. They are very like the thing that I always say about Capricorn Moon. It's a very karmic placement. And it can relate a lot to emotional patterns that have sort of been stuck. I literally, this is another thing, that happens. Like, I literally didn't even look at your sun. I was like, as I was saying that, I was like, I know she has an 8th house sun. I swear I didn't even notice that before. So that connects perfectly. So this is a huge karma for you in this lifetime to go through that death, rebirth, and transformation with very, very karmic and stuck emotional patterns, right? Crystallized, like Saturn is rock, emotional patterns. So when we think about the moon, let me have a sip of my tea. It's late. It's 5. I stay up still. They have Uranus in the 6th house, but this has been crazy lately. How late I've been staying up, but I do better work at night. It's crazy. But so yeah. Anyways, so with this energy, with the Capricorn moon, you have the moon. It wants to be like Cancer, right? It wants to be smooth flowing, like water. Imagine like the emotions are supposed to run like water. But with Saturn, it's like imagine a river with a bunch of like big dams blocking that flow. So karmically, wow, I've never used that example. I kind of like that. Yeah. So karmically for you, it's how can you get through those, and clues to that, and the fact that it's trining your south node, right? And then it's trining your sun in Taurus conjunct Jupiter. That's telling me, and your sun's in the 8th house. So when you have a sun in Taurus in the 8th house, that is so fucking karmic, because the 8th house is Scorpio, which is the opposite side of Taurus, which means that the polarity of Taurus, Scorpio, right, that opposition, which a lot of it kind of a big part of it is power and where you derive the power from. For you in this life, it's really about diving into your own self, into your own reserves for power. And part of that is also through that Neptunian North Node in Pisces, Neptune conjunct the moon, right? So it's like your moon has all these different centers it can go into. So your meditations and whatever you do spiritually there's just such it's just probably so intense. It's probably so multidimensional. So the 8th house sun in relation to the rest of the chart, the moon is being asked to transform. And Capricorn moons, they typically go through like a lot of setbacks early in life. They tend to have to grow up really quickly, and there's a real tendency for depression. A lot of Capricorn moons, more men that I've noticed, to be honest, in today's society. Of course, it can also not matter, but that's just something I've noticed. But yeah, basically the sun in the 8th house is basically saying that there's an imbalance between in past lives being too much, and then Pluto's in the 2nd house. Like finding an even balance between Scorpio and Taurus, right? So what does that polarity mean? Too much Taurus is too stubborn, too not willing to make changes, too not willing to take risks. In this case, we're talking about emotional risks, right? Think of like the snake shedding the skin, right? That's kind of the energy. Too much Scorpio can be a little bit too much deriving power from external like sources, not diving into yourself enough, because the high energy of Taurus is, and you have this huge advantage of having Jupiter conjunct the sun, is diving in to your own self and finding your own internal resources and developing power from those. So you're not relying on another person, another power structure. It's coming from within, right? So, yeah. So, and then Pluto kind of like doubles down on that, right? Because Pluto in the 2nd house, Pluto is like where your like greatest darkness. It's like the greatest darkness, but you have to dig in your own shadow, and then once you kind of get down to the underworld, then you find all the gold within. In the 2nd house, Pluto people, it's about resources, right? So Pluto in the 2nd house, people can really, really want to go towards money and making things happen in that end. But the real thing is it's about self-esteem, and it's about not relying so much on external possessions and relying more and finding ways to rely on the internal, right? So it's like, imagine someone who, like the epitome of this would be the example of someone who's like, they live in the same town their whole life, they go to high school, they have like a really solid group of friends, they then get a job, and they just never like, it's nothing wrong with it, it's just like, they never take, but then they have these yearnings of like this part of their soul that wants to evolve and do something more, but they never do it. That's kind of what this is saying, right? And like also with the Pluto in the 2nd house, it can make possessions and money go through all these upheavals, right? So there's this link between changing possessions and changing inner values. When you go through crises, maybe there's ups and downs of your finances or of your overall situation socially. So like, how much does that affect your self-esteem, right? How much does that affect your sense of you? So anyone with a sun in the 8th house, they're meant to explore the realms of the unknown, the astrology, the psychology, right? The taboo, also sexuality, right? It's very, 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 intense place to have your sun, and it makes you a little bit different than most people. especially having Jupiter here is like a superpower for becoming an astrologer, or becoming a psychologist, or a healer. And you also have Chiron, and I guess it's kind of far from the midheaven, but whatever. Basically, like the fact that you have Jupiter conjunct your sun, first of all, that just gives you like tons of luck and tons of like confidence, and even though you have Saturn on your moon, which can kind of take away from that confidence, right? As we know, it's Saturn on the moon, can kind of inhibit the emotional vulnerability, which is another issue all in itself with the cat moon. Is it can be very difficult for someone with your placements to speak about their emotions, right? But this exploration, this 8th house exploration into the depths, into the studies of life after death, into the whatever esoteric occult, that actually opens the doors, and it gives you a language. It's kind of very similar to me, actually. It gives you a language for which you can actually express yourself emotionally and understand yourself on a deeper level. That language is what's really key, and you're searching for higher truth within that. And in that search for higher truth, whether it's internal truth about yourself, right, about your past, who you are, your authentic true self, which is really what Jupiter in the 8th house is doing, it's giving you this flashlight. Imagine that like the 8th house is this like dark, scary place that most people don't want to frequent. It's like there's this dark gate, and you're able to go in there. Most people are like in there, it's like a cemetery. But you have this flashlight, this lamp, where you're able to kind of like see and not be afraid, and actually have lots of luck too. Like, you will have luck with the 8th house people you meet. I'm literally like also like I would fall in that, like I'm an 8th house person, and Jupiter, there's gonna be people like similar to me that you come across. And it's just a very good energy. Also, I just want to tell you, and I don't tell this to everyone, that I have a secret. It's secret now, but it's a private group or just over 100 people called the Cosmos Community. And basically, we have like a WhatsApp group, and the main thing is it's centered on every 3 weeks we have a Zoom meeting, and it's free. It's like optional donation. And I kind of just invite people based off of like I'll invite clients if I see their charts are saying something to me, or if I get something from their vibe. But I would invite you to join. Like I said, it's only optional donation on Patreon. And yeah, let me know after if you're interested in joining that. I would love for you to be part of that. So as I was saying, let me have another sip of my tea. You have a complicated chart, but I'm in my mode right now. Like, I see it all. I really understand kind of what's going on here, right? So it's pushing you. So imagine you go through the setbacks emotionally, but then you have all these really intense, like maybe you're psychic, right? Like a Moon conjunct Uranus is like psychic. Moon conjunct Neptune is also like super, like one of them can make you maybe see the future. But you're also going to be very, very rebellious. But then you're also going to have this interplay between Saturn and Uranus, right? Where you're rebellious in some ways emotionally, but then in other ways you're more traditional, which the Capricorn Moon is a traditional moon placement. Lots of Capricorn Moons, when it's just Cap Moon, my brother has the same thing as you. He just has he doesn't have Saturn there. He has Neptune, Uranus. But most of them, they do care about how they're seen by others, and they want to succeed. Like, they want to have success. But for you, because you're an 8th house sun, and your chart ruling planet Venus is in the 9th house, it's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot more about meaning and truth. So you're really you have lots of karmic missions. One of them is to get past these emotional hurdles, and the other one is, but they're all interconnected, right? Because your esoteric / spiritual quest is directly connected to your emotional healing, and we see that. We see that even further with the Chiron conjunct Venus, right? So the planet that rules your chart, which makes it a very important planet, is Venus in the 9th house in blah 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 in Gemini. And with Chiron conjunct that's basically saying that there's a lot of pain related to kind of your inner confidence, right? more so your ability to voice your inner confidence, your ability to voice your authentic self, right? Gemini is communication. And, Mercury is in dignity there in your chart in Gemini, and I have it in the 8th house. So there's this need to kind of heal this energy where you might have like been told at a younger age, like there's something about you that's not good, something like that. Like you never really know exactly what it is, but to kind of like do healing around how you communicate and your opinion of your own intelligence, your opinion of your own self, right? Because Venus is ultimately love internalized. It's self-love, and then it can be like once you love yourself, you can love someone else. So that's kind of what that's saying. And the avenue through that, is through 9th house, which is all about traveling. It's all about learning higher philosophies, right? It's a house of Sagittarius. So it's like having courage to take the risks, which is connecting right back to what I was saying before, right? You're here in this life to take emotional risks. So one other thing about the 8th house is that 8th house people and I have the 8th house sun, so I know 8th house people have different lifetimes within their lifetime, right? You have lived lives or you have lived periods of life, and I know this can be kind of said for everyone, but there's like, I guarantee you that you can maybe like break your life into like very, very distinct parts where it feels like you were like an actor. Like the person you were at that time was like an actor playing a role, because you're so different now, because you shed so much of that skin and moved into a new way of being. That's like the 8th house, right? It pushes us into these kind of crisis situations a lot of the times. Of course, you with having Jupiter there, it might not be as like dark as it is for some people. But yeah, it's not like a life where you're just meant to sit around and do nothing and not go towards the growth. But then the Taurus, so you're really here to master Taurus and Scorpio. And with Taurus, it's like, how do you master Taurus? You master Taurus by finding groundedness, the root chakra, right? Connected to planet Earth. Like look at your chart. You are Earth sign with the Earth Moon, so you probably love going in the woods, going hiking, being close to nature. You gain so much power from that, and it's so natural for you. I think animals, most likely, you probably love animals. And anyone with a Capricorn Moon should have animals. Because with the complexity of the Capricorn Moon, it can be difficult to open up. And a loving animal like a dog or a cat can really help. But like I said, or I haven't said this yet, astrology is all about probabilities, right? So in essence, your whole chart, I would be saying this the exact same way to a 1-year-old as I would for someone that's 80, as I would for someone that's 30 or 20. Like it's a mix between free will and your energy and what's in your chart. It's like these are the cards you were dealt, and free will is kind of that next level, right? So, okay, we continue. So we're kind of getting further here, right? And let's take a look at some of the aspects. And you see kind of how I do this. I kind of go in different circles, and I get to where I'm going in the end. So I just want to see if the sun. Okay, so Sun square Mars, trine. Okay. So you have a lot of like you're being really pushed forward by your past lives, right? With the South Node ruler, it's Mercury also, so it's in the same house. It's exalted. It's an indignity. South Node, the 12th house in Virgo. That's another karmic imbalance, right? So you have such a loaded karmic chart, because that's South Node Virgo in the house of Pisces, and basically it's saying that like mastering these two energies, evening out this polarity. So being too Virgo is when you're too concerned with the material world, when you're too concerned with how is this going to get done, kind of worrying, obsessive compulsive kind of energy. And it's really about having a quest for compassion and faith, right? And not being very rigid with like overly rigid and with the kind of and with structure and how you build your life, right? Because what that does is it blocks your understanding of the oneness with the universe, which is what Pisces is all about, right? So the best way to find that is through developing some type of spiritual understanding and learning to rely on your intuition and faith, right? Finding faith, which is like what that Venus in the ninth house, it's very, very, it's going in that direction. So, Pisces North Node in the sixth house is like, I think of it as, how can you be of service to humanity and not self-deprecate yourself? And how can you go towards high Pisces, which is the meditation, the oneness, that the highest spiritual energy, being of service, but also have the sixth house, which is the routine. So it's like a perfect metaphor for that is like health too. I have North Node in the sixth house too. So it's like physical health becomes like a karmic impetus, right? It's like so important for you to have a solid routine coming from the guy who's staying up at 5:30 a.m. But I'm still sleeping 8 hours, so whatever. But you get the point that it's like not enough to just do all the spiritual things. It's like to have that routine and that lifestyle that's healthy. That then you're able to really go towards that North Node of Pisces. So yeah, it's also about responsibility, because when you're not enough Virgo, when you're too Pisces on that opposition, right? You don't have any responsibility. You're just almost like whatever. It's like the person just lays in bed all day and doesn't go and it's just the dreamer, right? The epitome of the dreamer, not the doer. The Virgo is the person that puts the plans into action. It's organized. So it's like, how can you still keep that compassion, that oneness, all those things, while not losing sight of what was I saying? Not losing sight of making sure that your daily life is in order. And it's also about letting go of desires to escape into fantasy life, also like escaping into like victimization, like just any kind of self-deprecating, self-sabotaging behavior. And it's about productivity, but having that productivity go towards service. 1 second. 2222. I've been seeing that so much. I just checked and it said that. Let's pour some more tea. Okay. So we haven't really talked much about your rising sign, Libra. So Libra risings, they really are people who approach life in a very fair, balanced way. They really take in, they're very diplomatic. They're Venusians, right? So it's very good for having this attractive energy that kind of brings people to you, bubbly personality, right? And harmony is super important to you, but there's this real need to not people please and to not like and to not the thing with Libra risings, they're indecisive, right? So it's to really not go in the low Libra ways. But the great thing about Libra rising is that it's just a very socialite energy, and it makes you really able to kind of like go out and meet different types of people, be very present, be very good in social situations, and and kind of not be like this person that freaks people out. And that also goes really well with the Taurus sun, because you have both Venus signs in your big three. So you're going to have a lot of Venus energy, right? Which is very, very beautiful. Like, you know, like I said, it's like, it's just gives, it's not necessarily luck. Luck is more Jupiter, but it's beauty. It's beauty. It's the arts. It's even good for finances, right? Even though you have that Pluto in the second house, you know, finances definitely have a very karmic role in your life, you know? And I talked about that before, how there's that link between like external finances and internal. And I think once you're really able to almost be cool, like with the kind of mindset, it's like, you know what? Even if I lose, like even if I'm not rich, I'm still me. It's like, okay, here's the metaphor. I love it. I remember this one because I love this one. You want to be like a big rock in the ocean as opposed to a little marble or a little tiny gravel. Like whenever there's a big wave, the big rock doesn't move. And that big wave representing any kind of energy, anything that happens in life, right? That's what your chart wants you to become. The marble or like whatever, like small little rock, pebble just gets pushed over by everything. It's just at the mercy of the external world. And, you know, if things are up and down with finances and you take too much of your self-esteem from that, then there's going to be continuous karmic lessons or lessons that make you learn that lesson, right? And things will actually stabilize, but they'll especially stabilize when you're, you know, of service, right? Because that's where your north node is. So when you're going too much towards your south node, that's when you're being too materialistic. But it's just one of those. I see this a lot with clients when the south node Virgo is in that 12th house of Pisces. So it's more of like I said, an imbalance in that polarity. So that's already two polarities that you have to deal with. So my homework to you would be to really read about the opposition of first of all of Scorpio and Taurus, and really understand what does that mean to balance those two out, and then also of Virgo and Pisces, right? But all in all, it's really asking you to move away, to use your past life skills, because with a South Node in Virgo, with the ruling planet of that being in dignity, Mercury in Gemini, which gives you this super intelligent brain, right? That in itself, you're trying to use that to help you with the sixth house North Node, kind of Pisces energy, right? Like, because there can be sometimes like very a lot of analysis in your brain, and I know you're a spiritual person, and I'm curious if you always were, because I see you as a rational person too. I mean, typically that's what someone that would have a Taurus sun is usually very grounded and kind of rational, logical. But yeah, then there's the wild card of the moon with the stellium and Capricorn with the three outers, right? But really, that's just like gives you like so much. It'd be cool for you to do some kind of like creativity, like art thing, to try to channel each planet of Neptune, Uranus, and Saturn, and kind of like do like a meditation. I don't know if you paint or do something artistic, but that would be crazy cool to see like what you came up with as archetypal representations of those. So yeah, I like that idea. So yeah, Libra rising. I mean, it's just a good placement, and you know, Venus ruling the ninth house, and the ninth house being highlighted is just like that. That's really good. You might find love when you travel. Like you might be attracted to people from from travels from different cultures. But also Venus in the ninth house in Gemini is once again, and we keep seeing this theme. Ninth house is Sagittarius. Gemini is opposite Sagittarius. So, you know, it's not as highlighted as the other ones, but that is speaking to this balance between like when you acquire, it's like the journalist is like Gemini, right? And the person that ties all the information together is Sagittarius and makes the philosophies. So it's like being both of those, right? But yeah, it's an interesting placement in the fact that it's exact degree conjunct with Chiron, right? But really with Venus in the ninth house, there's just a huge urge to understand the world. And it's really good for higher education too. But yeah, Venus. So now let's talk a little bit about love. And so, and everything in this chart kind of wraps around each other. So let's introduce Mr. Mars and Venus. So, okay, so what's the relationship between? And before that, I just want to say, like, I didn't really go that much into the relationship between your sun and your moon because it's perfect. I mean, it's Capricorn and Taurus. It's like they're married. They're trining each other. So it's like there is with your big three, there's this really one pointed direction, which is very, very good. It makes life easier as opposed to someone like myself who has Pisces Sag, where it's a square, and it feels like there's two personalities, two parts that want extremely different things. This makes it so it's more grounded, going towards one direction, and then the Libra rising just helps with a lot of ways. And I believe that because it goes eighth, the zodiac wheel is a story. So the eighth house then goes to the ninth house. So you go deep within yourself in a very scorpionic manner. You figure out what really matters. And then you go out in the world with your ninth house and explore and then figure out the philosophies and figure out that higher truth, right? And then it goes to the 10th house, right? Which is your midheaven, which is ruled, and I'll go into love stuff in a second, but it's midheaven in Cancer, ruled by the moon. And the moon is on the IC also. So this is super interesting. So I definitely want to go here before I go into the love stuff. But so basically here it's saying that your childhood is going to have a huge impact on your career, right? And just the moon on the IC. What degree is it? It's not showing me. It's 7. Okay, so it's at 7. So it's like right, the MC is the midpoint between Neptune and the moon. But basically, like, yeah, Cancer midheaven is basically saying that, like, you need to have, like, an emotional connection to, like, what you're doing for your career. And being of service in some way is very important for anyone that has moon conjunct Neptune, Uranus, and even Saturn, and even in Capricorn. So I would imagine that, like, you would get a ton of fulfillment from some type of, from a career that's really like being of use to society, if it's like through mental health or something like that. I mean, there's tons of different varieties. I'm not gonna list off jobs. It's not really something I do, but you can use your imagination with kind of what would work with that. But then you also have tons of artistic talent. Obviously you're Venusian, so you're going to have that too. And I think Cancer midheaven would like to be in a more environment that feels kind of homey. And your 6th house is ruled by Pisces also, with your north node there. So that's going to kind of double down on that and say that you're going to want to have your everyday life be more comfortable, more where you're able to kind of be in touch with your emotions and not have this crazy hectic environment. But even with that said, the fact that you are double Earth, that gives you such an advantage. And also especially with the Mercury in Gemini, which is the highest place where you can have Mercury with Virgo, it gives you such an advantage if you did work a more traditional corporate type job about getting really wanting to build towards something. It's just it's not saying I'm not saying you have to have a job where you're just a service, but you want to have an emotional connection to what you do, is what I'm saying with Cancer. But Cancer, some of the biggest billionaires in the world are Cancers, so it's also a cardinal sign that's can be very much about its money. It could be real estate, for example. But yeah, so any childhood wounds, like moon in the 4th and 3rd house on the IC is going to indicate, especially Neptune in the 4th, that there's lots of fogginess. A lot of people that have Neptune in the 4th house, they almost forget their childhood. Does that make sense? They don't have memories of it. Like it's almost like they barely remember shit. And it can be trauma, but it can also be just and let's see what aspects there are, because it can also reflect something less like difficult, because it's trining your sun and Jupiter. So I don't think it's that. I think it's probably more that you had a very idealistic, maybe you had like hippie parents or something like that, but then with the fact that your sun is in Taurus, your moon's in Capricorn, I would think maybe they weren't. They were more structured, more regular people. But you might have had a very idealistic and kind of dreamy childhood. But yeah, most people that have the Neptune there have trouble remembering it. Or they have like a false memory of it, where they might really idealize how it was, but really it wasn't that way when you actually think about it. And there could have even been like a sense of loss surrounding home or family. So what I'm saying is that for your outer success, whatever wounds there are down there have to, and this is also, related to the past lives, even though it's trining your nodes, which makes me think of a very positive, I don't know, even though like you usually wouldn't say that, it's like it makes me think of a positive childhood, because like usually like a trine between sun and moon means like an accordance between the parents in terms of like their general views towards life and message in their general message. But it's not always the case. But yeah, basically like your career is gonna have, like your early childhood experience will have a huge impact on your career. So you're definitely like kind of the natural kind of healer type person. Like I've seen this in the charts of like people who are counselors in mental health and doing something of that, like even astrologers. Okay, let's see here. So okay. Okay, so that's a huge point. So you have Mars in the 5th house. So Mars in Aquarius, I have that too. That makes you like Mars in the 5th house. How can I say it? It's a sexual position, right? But the thing with Mars in Aquarius is that they can almost have this like on and off switch with their sexuality, where they can like go from like hypersexual to like asexual, right? But like 5th house is all about having fun. So there's this huge drive for you to have fun, express your inner child, and express yourself creatively, which is literally the antidote to anything with the cat moon. It's like creativity, right? Any of the blockages of the cat moon, it's like getting in touch with your inner child, right? Mars in the 5th house also would love competition. And so Mars in Aquarius, it's like that humanitarian, because Mars is that drive forward. So it's that real drive towards humanitarianism. It's kind of like a genius indicator. Aquarius is like the sign, like the genius, not necessarily like an IQ genius, but just like the person that just does things differently, right? So it makes someone really, it's like Mars and Aquarius people are very hard to pin down. They're very unpredictable, very good leaders, and they're very rebellious. But I would say they would probably make you very unique in your creative expression, and also probably be into technology in some way, maybe like digital art or something. I don't know. That's kind of the avenue there. But the way it works in love is that you have you have a trine, a beautiful trine between your Mars and your Venus. So Venus conjunct Chiron, there's pain that has to be overcome, right? In relation to finding your voice within yourself and within your relationships. With that said, the fact that you have a beautiful, smooth-flowing trine between Mars and Venus, it means that there's an accordance in your love language, meaning that you need to really be very, very like BFFs with your lovers, right? There needs to be like a very strong intellectual connection, and that's kind of what's going to attract you to people, is this person from an intellectual perspective. And they need to keep you excited. Venus and Gemini people, like, they get a bad rap. Some people are like, they're the whores of the Gemini of the zodiac because they just go from person to person. But they will literally go into a relationship just because they're curious about some random thing about that person, right? And it's so interesting. Some people with Venus and Gemini, they'll like just be in one relationship for 3 years, and another one for 3 years, and another one for 3 years. It's like, and they'll really go for, like, you'll be really interested in unconventional people. That's like the Mars and Aquarius energy, and people who like keep you who it needs to be fun, right? And sex is very important with the 8th house energy, which is about that more transcendental. So you have both of them. You have like that more transcendental, like two souls becoming one spiritual kind of sex. That's like 8th house sex. But then 5th house sex is just like fucking, I don't know how to say it, just like boom, 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 like just fun, flirty kind of energy, right? So, yeah. So then Juno, the asteroid of marriage, it's conjunct your part of fortune and you're pretty close to your sun in the 8th house. So that's really saying that, like, when you're looking for like a marriage partner, that person has to really be stable, and they have to really be someone that you can rely on, and like they're almost like your rock, right? But at the same time, it's in the 8th house, so it's almost like a very karmic indicator that the person is going to really mimic this, like the relationships, and your vertex in the 7th house is actually which represents your doorway to higher awareness, and in the house of relationships is doubling down. What I'm saying, that a lot of this whole death, rebirth, transformations for you will come in relationships, because you'll desire very emotionally intense relationships, and like really growing and changing yourself with your partner, right? And it's like I said, it's sexual intimacy, so tons of things there. But like with that said, in that arena of intense change, you need to feel very secure and safe. That's a Juno and Taurus. So you'll want your partner to be very reliable and stable, and in some ways a little bit more traditional, right? But then, I already said, with the air energy, it's just like, Venus and Gemini is also very curious and flirtatious, right? Exchange of ideas. So communicating is so important. So you're going to have to be with someone who understands that there might be a little bit of wounding there in relation to your Chiron being conjunct your Venus. But like communicating within relationships is super important, right? And you can also get really bored easily, and it's also very good for money, Venus in Gemini. But here's another thing: you can also be a spendthrift and be self-deprecating in that area. So that's another area you have to look at with Chiron. But now we talk about communication. So this is another thing I'm getting. You have your Mercury in dignity in Gemini. So Mercury in Gemini, how the brain and communication, that's just like super good for conversation, for information. So these are all fast talkers. That's why it's kind of crazy, but I craft my readings. Like, I'm a fast talker, but I can slow down too. Like, I can talk more like this, But when I have like a Mercury in Gemini, I know that their brain is working fast, right? So I kind of like cater my readings to that in some ways. But yeah, so it's just like really enjoying books, like any kind of media, computers, anything that helps you learn and communicate. Mercury in Gemini is it's very, very good for school. And in the 8th house, so I imagine that maybe there's some jealousy to how you were very intelligent. That's what that would indicate with the Chiron. But also the Chiron there, conjunct the Venus, could be like, maybe like because you are in 8th house with the 5th house energy, maybe there is some shame around how you were in love, right? But maybe there's also just some karmic pain that exists in relationships and in trusting, which when we bring it back to that Capricorn Moon, and that real difficulty, which, you know, I told you before, Capricorn Moon is it's a moon the most prone to depression. That there can be issues there. So all in all, Chiron conjunct Venus is also pushing you to heal yourself and your self-love. And when you do that, you're able to be a healer for other people. So it's very common in my clients, because my clients are often people who are meant to, heal the world in some way. That's why you're drawn to me. That's why you're drawn to this reading. There is the chance that you really are meant to kind of go through some type of Chiron, Venus, Gemini pain that then leads you to get past it and then help other people through their own version of it. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost like a what's the word? I'm always forgetting English because I'm speaking too many other languages. What's the word? Initiation. It's like almost a karmic and chironic initiation. So, speaking more of the mind, so let's keep going on this. Uranus in the third house is going to make that even more. I think you may have had unusual hobbies, unusual way of thinking that people just didn't understand, and that maybe gave you pain around your people just not getting you. Just like she's weird. She has weird things she's into. She's into all the eighth house stuff that everyone's afraid of. Why is she into ghosts? Why is she into studying life after death? Stuff like that. But Uranus in the third house means that through your communicating, especially through your writing, if you write anything, right? I already told you like you should do some exercise on that. You can literally get downloads through it, which is so cool. And Moon is technically, it's on the IC. It's in the third house. So, in whole signs, 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, it's the fourth house in the whole signs, and it's so close to IC that it's like, But basically, it's just a huge connection to family. From the whole signs, it would be in the third house, but it would just kind of push forward this theme of communications being so important. But I'm not looking at whole signs anymore, or right now. I just decided stick with the coach house system, what I've always used. But either way, there's this deep attachment. We're still getting in the same place, to the family of origin, to the childhood, even maybe to the ancestors. With this type of arrangement at the bottom, it could be the case that you're really meant to break down ancestral trauma, and that you have all these energies at your disposal that you're able to kind of connect with interdimensionally. So, with relationships, it's they can be quite fiery. Aries ruling the descendant, making Mars in your seventh house ruled by Mars in the fifth. Sex plays a huge role into them, but also fun and creativity and just being different. You might be very interested in having thought-provoking conversations, and just everything in the domain of air. So, really interestingly, you have every element besides water. And I know you have Pluto and Scorpio, but so is everyone from 84 to 98, born between those times. So that's what's really interesting about your chart, is that you have an 8th house sun, which is the house of Scorpio, and your north node is in Pisces. So it's almost even though you don't have water in your chart, it's your chart's asking you to become more compassionate in this lifetime, to become more trusting of the universe, right? To become more just to strengthen your intuition, to really get deep and become vulnerable, and be able to express your emotions. Because that's another thing when we talk about that wound, the chironic wound. It can be about that as well, right? And with Saturn in the third house too, I definitely think that there was some early wounding. Sorry, my throat. excuse me. So with Saturn in the third house, you see how astrology, there's just like this here, and they're different clues, they're connecting. So Saturn in the third house is like your communicating ability may have been restricted when you were in early childhood, right? Which could have resulted in a fear of expressing yourself, which maybe around the time of your Saturn return, which is not too long ago, you have probably felt a great freedom in that, right? But with the Saturn in the third house, you gradually build up skills in communicating through your own hard efforts, right? So Jupiter is in Taurus too. Jupiter in Taurus, you got to watch out for addiction, watch out for like overeating, watch out for overindulging in the senses, in the sex, stuff like that. That's just one thing I've noticed about Jupiter and Taurus. But like, it's really good. Jupiter in the 8th house is really good for inheritance and for getting things from people, from other people's resources, like benefiting from other people's resources, and also from joint enterprises, right? You can expand a lot. And then I already told you the whole part, like the esoteric or the studies of like of these, how you have the flashlight and the gates to the unknown are open for you while they're locked for everyone else. But yeah, Jupiter and Taurus, it just kind of like conjuncts your sun, so it's a great energy, and it can make you like have this real persistent search for truth, and you can be this very like wise teacher, and it gives you this really strong desire for abundance in all areas of life. So like that's kind of like Taurus, it's known for money, right? It's known for resources. So I'm not saying don't go for that, but it's really important to like have the balance between the external and the internal resources. Okay, so I think we're at 50 minutes. But I guess I would just say that there is more. Black Moon Lilith, it's in Virgo in the 11th. The way I think of Black Moon Lilith is like, how is that? It's almost like your shadow side. That's how people talk about the repressed feminine. So it's like, okay, but like I look at it as like the shadow side. So in Virgo, it's like perfectionism. That's how I see it, right? It's like, 1 second, I'm messaging right now. One second. Okay, cool. I just was making sure it's cool if I put it on YouTube. I've never actually, so I don't know if you know how the Peace Dealer, super good astrologer, he puts all his readings on YouTube, and like it's just so inspirational. And I know I'm not perfect, but I just would love to start doing that, to take that step, so other people can kind of see and gain wisdom, and maybe they'll see something in their chart that resonates. I just love watching astrologers do readings. It's such an art and science. I love the interplay. But anyways, so the way I see Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, it's in the 11th house, so it can make friendships a little bit fraught in this lifetime. Friends like failing to live up to your expectations, and there can be darkness that comes out in there. But you might have too high of expectations, because it can come back to that South Node of Virgo, right, where there's like too high of expectations for yourself, and then it gets projected to people around you, right? So you may believe that you're always having to live up to other people's high standards, but like really it's you who sets the standards with the Virgo South Node energy. So it's like realizing that just self-acceptance, self-compassion, self-love, like kind of that Pisces energy, right? Like trusting the process, trusting the universe, trusting that I'm waking up today. On a scale of 1 to 100, what's the best I can give? And if I could only give 50 on that day, can I still be cool with myself? That's like the key, because like the low Virgo energy, it sets the highest expectations, and when it doesn't get there, impossible ones, it just shuts down. So just giving yourself the space to like not always be so perfect. Okay, Venus talked about that. So you have Venus opposite Saturn and opposite. So Venus is actually opposing and square. Okay, so you have a really difficult Venus. It's squaring your node, so that means that your love. There's gonna be lots of karma in your love life, but that this whole Venus, this like everything I talked about, the Venus square Chiron or conjunct Chiron is karmic. So it's coming from past lives, and you're gonna have very karmic partners. And it literally, like, once again, it's another thing that's saying that everything I talked about before, how it's going to be the relationship area of life is where you're going to find a lot of this clash, a lot of this 8th house transformation. That's another point of it because of that opposition between Venus and all the outer planets at the bottom, right? And then also, your 7th house is ruled by Mars, and you have Eris in there and the vertex in Aries. So it's like kind of these clashy battles potentially in relationships. And also in relationships with Aries 7th house, it's like preferring to retain your independence when you're in your close relationships. And Venus opposite Uranus is totally gonna be that same energy, right? It's gonna be like I want to stick to myself. You might kind of run away when there's too much cleanness, too much very very rebel energy, right? And so you'll really love like a freedom loving partner, but there can be some like aggression, like if you feel caged in by your partner, some real fiery fights. And then the opposite with Saturn, that could just make it so like your more important relationships, like you might not have any. Or even though they're playing such a big role, that there might not be like the good ones until after the Saturn return. And and what else am I seeing? But it's not such a. The thing is that this opposition, it's not in the same sign. So it's barely like I barely would count the one with Saturn. But it's still there. All right. What else? So the Venus, the love area is going to be difficult potentially, but get better in time. Okay, Mars square Sun. That just speaks more about this potential for like bottled up anger that can totally come out in relationships. But the best thing for anyone with a Mars square Sun is athletics. It's just like getting that energy out, finding something competitive that you can really engage in, or creative, but like really like it's Mars is that warrior energy. Okay. Let's see. Oh shit! Why did that not show me? How did I not see it? Sun opposite Pluto. Okay, so I don't know how I already talked. Never mind. I already talked about it. But basically, Sun opposite Pluto is a super intense one. It's basically saying everything I already said, that you're going to have that clash of that there's going to be those external events that take you into the underworld. So like basically it's literally saying like there's no choice. There's no choice for you. You're going to have the clashes, and there can also be like lots of intense struggles to really express your strong ego. And it goes back to that whole Taurus Scorpio thing where you have these really dark situations that emerge that push you into being to change and transformation, which are a constant in your life, right? So yeah, it's a lot of times through these interpersonal relationships that the struggle is fought, and it can have to do with power struggles, right? Like sometimes it's like going to extreme lengths to ensure that others see you as this perfect human, totally in control of yourself and all that. And it goes back to that Virgo, like low energy of like having like such high standards, right? Which can, if you feel like you're not living up to those, there can be like this crises, right? So it starts as an internal battle, and if it's dealt with internally, then it doesn't have to have external, but oppositions typically have external events, so conflicts. There's another self-sabotage, is a huge potential. But yeah, like I said, it's all about death and rebirth. So to understand that these events, these circumstances are karmic, and that they are happening for a reason to make your soul grow, that's huge. And once again, with this imbalance of like the Taurus and Scorpio, there can be an intense fear of both death and rebirth, and also, there can be this fear of death and rebirth, and also of fear of failure and fear of change, which I've talked about, right? So, yeah, and it all goes back. Last thing I'll say, to this extremely strong need for deep understanding of the truth, right? So this kind of ties it all in with the 8th house sun, with your talents for research and investigation, uncovering of secrets, like that potential psychic ability we saw, the interest in the occult, the esoteric, and yeah, those are the tools. Those are your assets per se for transformation, where you can evolve out of the darkness of like suspicion and mistrust, aggressiveness, whatever, self-sabotaging, and even like potential addictions, which can happen with some of the indicators in your chart. So yeah, it's like all about major crises and evolutionary change that comes from that. All right. So yeah, that's about it. I think I always go over every review. 10 minutes over. So that's about it. So yeah, I already talked to you about the follow-up. So if you want to, most people, they've booked it. I said this before. This is going to be my first video ever posting on YouTube, which I'm super excited about. I'm going to start posting all my readings on YouTube. If I can figure out how to do it, it should be pretty easy. But anyways, yeah. So like, let me know about the follow-up. Also, I'll probably message you, or you can message me around the time of your birthday. Around that time, that's the best time to get a current astrology reading. I recommend that all my clients do that once a year. This one, make sure. Actually, this is going to be on YouTube. You see, this is what's better, because people have been losing, like, I've been setting it in Google Drive for so long, but now people are going to be able to, if I can figure this out, people will just be able to, like, it'll save so much space, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think if there's any risks. I'll probably give people the option, like, you want, I could send it, I'll post it on YouTube, but I'll also send it via email just so that you can, like, save it somewhere. I'll give people the option for both, but you already said yes about YouTube. So yeah, really interesting chart. I love doing this. I looked at it before. I was a little bit, like, intimidated, but I thought this went really well. So yeah, with the follow-up, let me know if you want to do that. And yeah, this is going on YouTube, so no need for me to say my spiel about make sure you don't, let this just sit in your email for years, because so many people message me, I wanted to rewatch it 2-3 years later, and I couldn't. I was like, yeah, I don't want to pay $50 a month for Google Drive. I already pay like 10 or 12 or something, so yeah. All right, anyways, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and talk soon. All right, ciao.